We are
40,
live. We are
40
live.
pounds ago.
He's just Chan these days. The lure has been shedded away.
I lose a letter in my name for every 10 pounds that I lose. So,
well, I apparently went ahead and gave you all the way up to the D, and then I tried to say lure with a D and noise in front of it, and I don't think I did a very good job. So
yeah. Well,
Chabdler.
This time next week, I might actually just be gray.
Uh-oh. There's the signal. There it is. Ooh, the last part did
that was
not.
kinda rough.
that was not good. It did not feel good. It felt really
No.
bad.
Yeah,
I felt really
I feel
bad.
bad.
What do you say? Like sometimes if someone rips a fart and then someone's like, "Oh man, you need to check your pants" or something like that. What do you say when it's a barp? A barp? Okay, a burp that ends like that. Do you check? Are you like check your esophagus, buddy? Like, what do you say? Do we have an equivalent? We need to work on that. By the end of this episode, let's try to come up with an equivalent. Anyway, I'm your friend Joseph Craven. This is Running Up the Clock. We are recording.
Already off to a terrible start.
I don't know by what standards you think this is terrible. This is the best start we've ever had. We are live on YouTube for anyone who is subscribed to our YouTube channel. If you're not, get on that because on the times in which we record these full episodes, we also live stream them at the exact same time. So you got that going for you. But I'm joined tonight by what we like to call the new regulars, the new radicals themselves. Keith Big Red Harkins. What up, Keith?
Hello.
We're here with New Row, Mr. Gray Barnes. Gray, how are you?
Doing great, good sirs.
White Claw wasted.
White
Claw wasted.
Yep. And of
However,
course,
out of all of us, Chandler looks like the one who would be most likely to drink a White Claw right now.
okay. And
Embracing my inner Lane Kiffin.
exactly. And as Keith just pointed out, of course, co-founder Crambles Johnson down here as well. Here we are. This is it. By this time tomorrow evening, we will be struggling through yet another national championship game.
It's still going to be in the first quarter this time tomorrow night.
Yeah, it didn't start till 9:30 at night.
Yep.
Golly.
Eastern time zone, baby.
Yeah,
Shoot.
I really hate national titles because they start so
That
late.
sucks.
Yep.
I'm like, it's bedtime.
Oh yeah. And I'm out of here.
3 games still going on.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend earlier. So this would mark the 9th year in a row that I have not watched the title game on purpose. I was talking with a friend earlier today. And we're trying to figure out like a game plan. And I don't think either of us quite remembered like how late it was going to start anyway. We could have an entire evening of like hanging out and like smoking cigars and stuff and not even scratch kickoff basically
Right.
of this
right.
game. So, but this is the end of the season. So this will be our, end of the football season episode. And, for the most part, the regular season's done. The only team that's still alive is LSU. And that brings up a good point because in most of these end of the season episodes that you're going to listen to on any podcast, any TV show, whatever it is, they're going to talk about who's the biggest winner of the year, loser of the year. Well, this was a year where those questions are pretty obvious. Like LSU is obviously the biggest winner in the SEC this year. They're playing for a national title. 2 years ago, they were okay at best, and they're already back up to this level. So, like, we know they're the winner. We know that, like, half the league fired their coaches. They're all the losers. Everyone lost this year, So, like, those answers are easy. So, our own resident showrunner, who's really been carrying the podcast the past several episodes, Keith Harkins, he came up with some end-of-the-year questions for us to kind of go through as a group. And, Keith, I tell you what, how about I just toss the keys to the ROTC ride over to you? Let you kind of guide things from here and get us into each of these questions you've developed. How's that sound, buddy?
Who is the okayest team in the SEC this year?
Who is the most mediocre team this year?
Kentucky?
Yeah, that's fair.
Kentucky.
I didn't think we'd have an answer for that, but yeah.
But also Kentucky started a wide receiver at quarterback a lot, so that kind of makes them awesome. So I guess it's Tennessee. They seem like the definition of mediocrity this year.
Tennessee was okay.
They were okay.
Yeah.
Falls back, baby.
There we go.
So, 2019's over and done with. We are now in prestigious Kroger Field. 2020.
This is the year of Kroger Field, baby.
I might as well be. Yeah, so we've wrapped up another year and coincidentally another decade.
I couldn't tell what song you were humming, Chandler. I thought it was like the funeral dirge, like do 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 do. I was like, why? You
might as well,
mourning for
yeah.
that? Yeah.
All things on, bro.
dead.
Come on. All things
Everyone's
on.
dead.
Well, you hadn't gotten to the good part.
Yeah, when the beat drops and all things on, it's like it's lit.
And it's just a banger.
I'm just saying, out of all the celebratory songs out there, Auld Lang Syne slaps the hardest. No question. No contest. Keith, I'm sorry. We're not letting you do your thing.
And that's it for the end of the year wrap up. We're going to throw it back to Joseph Craven.
Thanks for Auld Lang Syning with us. Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, so year's over. We thought what a good time to kind of go back and look at some of our favorite, least favorite, funny moments throughout the SEC year and perhaps even college football as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Ooh, literary device.
Shivers. So we're going to go in a clockwise fashion from me on our little family Foursquare situation that we have going on with. So that's going to be
this would make
Chandler's
sense.
going to be first.
This would make sense if anyone has tuned into our YouTube broadcast. So once again, I'd like to plug our YouTube channel. There you go.
So, first question, Chandler, what was your favorite SEC football moment of 2019?
This one's easy. Matt Luke getting fired. Don't even care what happened after that.
Unsurprising to literally everybody.
Right? Yeah. No.
This is not shocking news. Yeah, and I'm kind of past all the point of like he was a good guy and he like took the job. No, get him out. He's gone forever. Bye. We're done.
Goodbye, Costco jar of mayonnaise.
Yes.
We hardly knew you.
No, we knew him.
I was actually surprised to see him coaching in the Georgia
The Sugar Bowl?
bowl
Milk
game.
it.
Yeah,
Milk it,
He
baby.
was coaching.
Milk
I'll tell
it.
you what.
Yeah,
Milk
that milking thing was more than a little disturbing.
Yeah, he went
Because
after
the
that
screen cap
answer.
that I saw of it, like he had just the worst
But let's just
complimentary
say
face to it.
let's just say if going into the season you had said Matt Luke is going to be coaching in the Sugar Bowl, I probably would have literally shot you in the face. Like absolutely not. There's no chance. Like there's a better chance of Buddy Stevens being the head coach of Ole Miss than there is of Matt Luke.
I would have been in for that. I still think it should have happened.
So would other people apparently.
What a funny world we live in. Matt Luke was coaching in the Sugar Bowl this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Matt Luke getting fired. That was my favorite moment.
Gray?
I had to really think about this. But I think my favorite moment was Mark Stoops. What does he have to do? He's down one quarterback, he's down two quarterbacks, he's down three quarterbacks. The moment that he said, we're going to have our best player touch the football every single play and then just see what happens. Just kind of like where it's recess and we're on the playground. We're just going to let the most athletic kid in class just touch the ball every play. And then fireworks, baby.
Yeah. He coached them like they were a high school team, which is it's beautiful. I mean, Clinton High School with Cam Akers won a state title with Cam Akers.
I mean, literally every weekend. I mean, if I wasn't watching their game, I had to check in and see what Lynn Bowden
ridiculous numbers he had.
Yeah.
So because of that moment, it did make the season a little bit more entertaining, and I'm glad that Mark Stoops had the moment in which he said, I'm just going to let this dude touch the ball every play and then just ride it out, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you got no choice.
That's somebody said this about on a podcast. Somebody said this about Gus Malzahn. But that every other coach is trying to figure out how to get Sundays into Saturdays. Talking about obviously trying to find NFL concepts and bring them into the college game. That Gus is always trying to figure out how to get Fridays into Saturdays, and that like Kentucky was just the ultimate embodiment of that. Like, let's just see what happens, and I love it. It was great.
Yep.
How many games did he start at quarterback? Like 6 or 7?
It was 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he has nearly 1,500 yards rushing at the end of the season. That's pretty
good.
impressive. That's pretty good.
Joseph?
There were a couple of moments that I thought were really cool, and so I want to give, if I can, a quick honorable mention to Joe Burrow walking out on senior night with a custom-made REAUX Joe Burrow jersey to kind of honor the fans that had embraced him. That's cool.
That was awesome.
But to me, it's a pretty easy answer because, I mean, it's no secret that I'm the best person on this podcast. And so the moment I think that was the best in the SEC was when Georgia fans went out of their way to honor Wendy Anderson, late wife of Arkansas State coach Blake Anderson.
Yep.
After she had lost her battle with cancer, they went out of their way to dress up in pink and honor her during the game. It was just this really cool moment of a fan base, going out of their way to show appreciation for life outside of sports, and the things that really matter. And I think that was a very touching moment. So good on you, Georgia fans, for that one moment. That's all you got, though.
That's it. Georgia was terrible the rest of the year.
Right. Well, I mean, their fans probably were.
Oh, absolutely.
My sister-in-law was in the band in college, and she tells stories about how they hated having to go out to Georgia because it was one of the places where the fans would come up and like rock the bus and just try to like really mess with the band a whole lot. So I don't know if Georgia fans quite have the reputation that maybe like LSU fans tend to get, but apparently they kind of fly under the radar in their skeevy activities.
Well, LSU is insane and terrible, but also fun. Like, it's weird how those three things kind of fit together. Georgia just seems insane and terrible and not fun.
I mean, the only fun thing about LSU fans was the drunk rapper guy.
Yeah.
Everything else is terrifying and dumb.
That dude probably wasn't drunk. He just was feeling it.
Yeah.
Well, and
he was feeling himself.
When you
so
feel
much.
the dinosaur come on, you just feel it. You just
You
go
gotta
with
go
it.
for it.
You
You gotta go for it.
It's not an alcohol thing.
Well, and you guys know that I have my Joseph Craven theory of LSUity, where no matter what sporting event is going on around the country, there's going to be a drunken, lost LSU fan at that sporting event. And you will find them, and they will be wearing a like number 9 early Doucette jersey for some reason. They will be there no matter where you are. I've seen them all over the place.
Yeah, or at the wasn't there somebody at the Ohio State Clemson game with like a LSU like hat on?
Yes.
They like zoomed in on some random person in the crowd with like a very upset face, because I think this was after Clemson like took the lead or whatever, and there's just an LSU hat.
Yeah.
It's probably like our game start 45 minutes after this one.
Yeah, they're just like, hold up,
They're just in the wrong stadium.
this is hold on now. What Tigers are these? What Tigers are these?
Real quick, my favorite moment is probably going to be Joe Burrow's Heisman speech. Just really cool, very authentic, very clear the relationship that he and Edo have. It's one of those things where, like, there's kind of your like popcorn speech that seems like everybody gives, where they kind of go down the list, and his just seemed to come way more from the heart. So
yeah, it's
just a really cool move.
Agent, and then
go insert team and stuff. So just a cool moment.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I'll say I still hold a lot of animosity towards Ed Orgeron for ruining my college experience.
Sure.
It's basically his fault, not the people who gave him the job. But
Your
the
whole college experience.
the whole, like, the Joe Burrow thing is cool, but I feel like the Joe Burrow thing is as cool as it is just kind of a footnote in the Edwards Geron redemption story,
Yes.
which again,
Which is amazing.
I love it. It's incredible. Like the way that he kind of realized the things that he was doing wrong, and then kind of went through some hard stuff, and then ended up making some changes. Like that's a cool thing, and you have to pull for that. Like even if you like, I deep down wish LSU would never win another game, but I love the fact that Coach O seems like he's kind of grown up and matured and changed, and is doing really well for himself, for his family, and even for the team that he coaches. So that's really cool.
Go Tigers!
It's gonna be pretty interesting in like, close to a decade or something like that, when we're watching Joe Moorhead and Matt Luke battle for a national championship after they've gone through their own journeys.
Back and forth.
And what's going to happen is whatever team Joe Moorhead is coaching is going to score a touchdown, and Matt Luke is going to be like looking at the scoreboard like he has no idea what's going on. It's going to be great. It's going to be so great. It's going to be so great.
It's just mostly his like trying to hold in a fart face.
Then he's gonna call a timeout as soon as right when the half starts, before they even kick the ball off. He's gonna be like, timeout. It's gonna be great.
I forgot my headset in the dadgum locker room.
he's gonna say cuss words every now and then to show you how much he cares.
He's passionate.
I'm an intense college football coach. All right.
I'm a real boy.
Favorite college football moment as a whole, not SEC specific. Chandler.
Man, do I have to start this time? Oh gosh.
Yep. Every time, buddy. Get ready.
Oh no.
I mean, I feel like even not SEC specific. I think I'm going to steal what Craven said, which I guess kind of feels like cheating and makes for bad podcasting. But the moment where Joe Burrow came out with the special jersey for senior night, and the way that he kind of like, because you could, in the video that they put out after the game, like you could kind of see like he runs out, everybody's cheering, but then when he turns around and points, he does the Rob Van Dam thing to the back of his jersey, and you just hear the stadium just lose it.
Rob Van Dam was the first person to ever point at himself. No one had ever done it before, Rob.
No one had done it before.
Yeah.
No one
Which is amazing in the entire human history.
Yeah.
Right. But everything is wrestling to me. So so that's what that's about. But that, like, the way that he went from kind of like this guy that last year was like okay, like not great, not terrible, but was just kind of there, to this unbelievable story of just great player, can be the number one pick now, and the way that LSU just really loved and embraced him, and really, this kid from Ohio, like Midwesterner, like no connection to Louisiana, whatever, is just kind of saying like, hey, that's his way of saying, hey, like, thank you guys, this is awesome, and was just a really, really, really special moment. And I think it's one of those moments that you look at and you see that like college football is this weird, bizarre, corrupt, sometimes terrible, but sometimes amazing thing that we all love, even though, our joke here is that we hate the SEC, whatever. Like it's one of those cool moments that's like, yeah, this is why I watch this. This is why I'm into this. And it's a really cool thing to see.
College football, just like the internet.
Just like
sometimes fun, sometimes terrible.
Mostly terrible.
Gray, favorite college football moment?
I had a hard time picking between two. Probably 1A is going to be California as a state, just saying, hey, screw you, NCAA. We're going to figure out a way to compensate our athletes over here.
Yes, and amen.
We'll see what you guys have to say about it. And then probably the most fun I had watching college football this year were both times that Oklahoma and Baylor played. Those were just fascinating games.
They were good.
They were.
So probably, my favorite college football moment was California seceding from the Union, and then Oklahoma and Baylor, just a collapse, and then just like a really great game with playoff implications on the line. So those are my two.
Yes, and
California is seceding from the union and showing that the NCAA has no actual authority over anything.
We say that, but the NCAA is going to make a man-made earthquake that separates California from America, and it just drifts off.
Win-win. Am I right?
We know
Trump
they got
2020, baby.
We know they got the technology. You know,
but they sure as heck are not going to stop to ask if they should.
Well, they're not. They're going to do it in the name of amateurism. Dang it!
For the health of the game.
Gosh darn amateurism, y'all.
All right, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to bring it back over to the SEC a little bit, though. I think my favorite college football moment, because I'm very curious to see if this moment has long-standing repercussions to it. And I say all this mostly because I'm somebody who, over the years, my interest in the widespread sport of college football has waned, and I watch all the SEC games primarily as research for this podcast. So I can't really remember any game outside of the SEC off the top of my head. Anyway, so that being said, I think my favorite moment, or what might be the biggest moment, is Alabama's screwing up at the end of the Iron Bowl to have illegal substitution that killed the game for them. Because I'm curious, when you combine that with LSU's resurgence, and you combine that with, just the fact that when a coach has been in one program for a while, eventually the shine wears off, and the top recruits don't just go to Alabama just because it's Alabama. The top recruits are like, oh, you know what? Clemson seems like they might be a better program right now. Oh, you know what? Oklahoma seems fun. Maybe we should go there. Oh, you know what? Ohio State is probably paying well. Let's go up there. It's like, I wonder if this is the beginning of the end of the Saban Alabama run. That's the only reason I bring it up is just because I'm curious if it has longstanding, foreshadowing of what's to come, because they're not going to have Tua anymore. They're not going to have their wide receivers as much anymore. I think at least Jerry Judy's gone. Another one's gone. I forget. I don't know. Anyway,
Henry Ruggs, I think.
Ruggs, thank you.
Derrick Henry's gone now. Yeah.
Derrick Henry Ruggs is gone. So I just wonder about some of that. As they've already lost a handful of defensive guys, they're now losing some offensive key guys. And they sealed an Iron Bowl loss off of what was ultimately a mental mistake, like on the coaching end of things.
Right. By what everybody considers to be like one of, if not the most well-prepared coach in college football.
Yeah, exactly. So I say that as maybe not necessarily my quote-unquote favorite moment, but could be the biggest. We'll see. Mm-hmm. We could get to this time next year and it means absolutely nothing. And Saban coaches another decade and dominates. Whatever. I don't know. But that makes me curious about what the future holds more than anything else.
I don't know if the sport can handle another Nick Saban winning like 5 national championships.
If it keeps making money, then it can handle it.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just referring to me not being sure if I can handle Alabama fans for another decade.
Probably it.
Yeah, jump out of there, man.
So my favorite moment, and there's a lot to choose from. There's, the while these are moments, like you've got Ohio State being really fun to watch, who's not being coached by just a terrible person. Justin Fields having a good year. Jalen Hurts having a good year. The Sooners toppling over and losing to Kansas, like in some sort of weird record. I don't get it. But I'm going to also bring it back to the SEC. My favorite college football moment of 2019 is the piss and miss.
The piss, miss, and dismiss?
Dismiss, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It just
two.
Right. Like just in a vacuum, like what that meant for that game, and the fact that he clearly was not thinking about, what could have happened. He's probably thinking, "Oh, I'll do this, and we'll just take it on the kickoff or whatever." Nope. Joe Moorhead surprises everybody, takes it on the PAT. They miss it. State wins. And then, of course, the extended effects of that are that Matt Luke almost definitely gets dismissed because of that specific instance and how that turned the game. And then, Ole Miss hiring Freeze, and then the State and Moorhead situation.
You're hiring Freeze?
And then hiring,
Hugh Freeze is back. Hugh Freeze is back.
Freeze.
You heard it here first.
Freeze.
No.
I did have a friend who's an Ole Miss fan. When they were like trying to figure everything out, he went, "Man, screw it. Just bring Freeze back. If his wife can forgive him, I can forgive him."
There's a very weird and very creepy faction of the Ole Miss fan base that every time anything happens, they're like, "We just need to bring back Freeze. We just need to get him back. Like whatever we got to do, we got to get Freeze back." It's like
he won games.
No,
that is number 2 in the country.
Such a bad idea. That is such a bad idea.
Yeah, but yeah, like it's weird that I said Freeze because I was thinking like I was seeing Kiffin's face. Anyway, so. Now you've got rid of like 2 kind of middle, like middling, maybe boring coaches to maybe what's going to be the most exciting interstate rivalry coaching matchup maybe ever. So, cool moment for that guy. Sucks to be him. All right. Since Chandler complained last time, we're going to start with Gray this time. The question is, most surprising thing to happen in the SEC this year?
I think this has a lot more to do with the SEC than what it really appears to be. But 2 high-profile SEC schools losing high-profile quarterbacks and them having great success in their new destinations, and the quarterbacks that the quarterback situations for the schools that they transferred from not being so great, if that makes any sense. Georgia just having to deal with Jake Fromm and his struggles, with his receivers all season long, and what that ultimately meant for their season. Not making the playoff just seems almost like a lost season for them. And then Alabama with Tua going down, having to rely on Mac Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why I was struggling so hard on that. Mac Jones having to save their season at the end of the year to try and make a playoff appearance. They kind of missed those 2 guys in Hurts and Fields. And the playoff could look a lot different if those guys had stayed around. So the most kind of how that relates to the SEC is kind of wonky, but I don't know. You don't really expect Georgia to just lose out on a guy they were so hyped about, and then go into Ohio State, and then seeing them have the success that they had there.
And just him having a crazy good year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely tracks. Joseph.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the fact that Tennessee was a pretty good team this year. And not only that, but Tennessee was a team that over the course of the season, like on a week-to-week basis, continued to show some signs of improvement in a lot of areas. And that surprised me. I pulled up our standings again, our standing predictions, and most of us had Tennessee almost last in the East. I think we all picked... Well, most of us picked Vandy last in the East, except for Rowe, who picked South Carolina last in the East. And I'm trying to remember what his reasoning was. That was months ago. Who knows? But most of us picked Tennessee pretty low. But to Rowe's credit, Rowe picked Tennessee to finish 3rd in the East, and they did. And so, he's the only one that apparently was not surprised by this. But I was surprised, and it really was, I think, that Mississippi State game where it was the turning point for them. And after that point, up until then, we were kind of like, oh, Tennessee's, such a mess. And their coach doesn't know what he's doing and all that. And then after that game, we were like, okay, Tennessee's such a mess. And Mississippi State's such a mess. And then the next week happens. And as the season goes on, we're like, oh, okay, well, never mind. there was only one actual mess on the field that day. And so I think that for me is probably what surprised me the most out of the season.
And I'll say for the record, I still don't think Tennessee's coach knows what he's doing.
Fair point.
He knows enough to get third in the East. So,
Chandler.
Yeah, the most surprising thing to happen in the SEC, I think. I mean, there are several things. I do think the fact that Ole Miss and Mississippi State both have new head coaches that's probably realistically the right answer, because I think that anything else kind of pales in comparison to that. But because we've already talked about that a lot, I'll say I think that the ascendancy of Joe Burrow, who again, like everybody looked at him last year as kind of like the definition of average. Like he's fine, he's not great, he's not terrible, but for him to go from that last year to an historic season where it's like he's setting completion records, he's the best quarterback statistically in LSU history, like all this kind of stuff, it just checks off thing after thing after thing after thing on the list that you just didn't see that coming from him. And I think that's awesome. I think that's great that he would realize like, oh, it's not going to happen for me at Ohio State, so I'm going to transfer, and it's kind of like tangentially, all the people who are like real curmudgeonly and like, man, the transfer portal's ruined college football. Like this is terrible. Like if we didn't have the transfer portal
is awesome.
Oklahoma wouldn't have been fun to watch. Ohio State wouldn't have been fun to watch. LSU would have been terrible. Like none of this would have been good. And so it ends up making it really, really fun. And I think the Joe Burrow story, to me, is the most surprising thing in the SEC, just because of what I thought that he was before this year, that he was just kind of like, he was there, he was fine. And again, a lot of this goes back to as well to the just the evolution of Coach O, that Coach O would be able to say, hey, like Joe Brady, Steve Ensminger, you guys run the offense. I don't have a hand in it. Y'all do what you do. And Joe Brady kind of turned out to be a bit of a savant, and he had a great quarterback to work with. So that was a really cool thing to see, even if I do hate LSU and everything that it stands for. So,
yeah, people that hate the transfer portal hate fun, and
yes.
Like to me, that's one of my favorite things I think about college football right now, is that it gives almost like a free agency feel to college football, and free agency is always a really fun thing for me with pro sports.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry, this popped up on Instagram real quick, and I just have to point it out because it's disgusting to me. But the SportsCenter Instagram account posted a video of Anthony Davis on the sidelines of the Packers Seahawks game, in Seahawks gear, in Packers gear, doing the Aaron Rodgers championship belt celebration. Anthony Davis is from Chicago. Anthony Davis should not be a Packers fan.
Should hate the Packers, yes.
Yeah.
In the event you're not watching on the live stream, I'm just doing lots of thumbs down. As many thumbs down as I possibly can.
It's like the Rob Van Dam of thumbs down.
I'll even give it a horns down.
Yeah, okay.
Horns
all right,
down.
Sorry. Keith, go ahead. What you got?
I just got a 15-yard on Sportsman.
Yeah, I was about to throw a flag on you.
Yeah. Speaking of Green Bay, they just beat Seattle, so good for them. I think the most surprising thing to happen in the SEC is, I'm going to kind of tag team off what Joseph said. The fact that Tennessee ended up being pretty good is both surprising in a vacuum, but the fact they started out like 1-5 or whatever it was, and not just 1-5, but like Vols Navy sank into that river, and like they were ready to burn Knoxville down to the ground. And like there was that one press conference where it looked like Philip Fulmer was about to murder Jimmy Pruitt right there in front of all the press. And there was even a guy who was living on top of a car dealership and wrote in and said he's not leaving until Tennessee wins a game. And College Game Day, one of the guys, I think it was Des Howard, said he should get a change of address form. and then literally that weekend is when they beat State and kind of went on their run. So yeah, not a whole lot else to add other than Tennessee being good was a surprise, but just like how they ended up being third in the SEC East after starting so terribly
Can I be a little bit? I got to be on brand a little bit with my Tennessee hate, especially since I now live in Rocky Top country, and a couple that is very, very dear to my heart that I talked to tonight that are like, man, Tennessee is back, like, whatever, love them to death, but
LOL,
like Tennessee being quote good, like who did they beat that makes them good?
Well, what was their record?
I mean, I think it was like 7-5. Like, so Georgia State 0-1.
Yeah.
BYU,
So they're 8-5. So they are 8-5, which means they beat 8 opponents in order to become good.
They beat 8 opponents, but Mississippi State was what, 6-7. Let's see, South Carolina. I don't know what South Carolina's record was. I don't know what UAB's record was. Kentucky was kind of good. Missouri was awful. Vanderbilt was awful. Indiana, whatever.
Yeah, but they also won their last 5 games.
Yeah,
but I think that highlights and I sincerely did not mean for this to be like a dump on Tennessee or dump on the SEC East thing, but like the SEC East is terrible.
Yes, you did.
Like you have Georgia and
real
Florida.
Bad.
You have Georgia and Florida, and then the gap between number 2 and number 3, and then everybody else down is just like
it's literally 3 wins.
Massive.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, they still won 8 games, and even if it's not great opponents, we're not saying that Tennessee was one of the best teams in the country. We're saying
yes, you are. You were saying Tennessee. You were saying balls back, baby.
Yeah. Okay.
You were
I definitely said that.
BFL.
Yeah.
I changed into that terrible Tennessee orange for a half a second.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. I just feel like if people would
fraudulent orange.
I feel like if people would leave me alone, I wouldn't hate Tennessee as much. Let the reader understand.
It is funny how many friends or people that Chandler interacts with that are Vols fans that just like harass him nonstop for no reason.
It's like, hey, you have this thing that you enjoy. Let me ruin it for you.
Well, that's Tennessee football.
Zero reason that should happen, but whatever.
All right, let's try to get through these before it's like 11 p.m.
Good luck.
All right, Chandler, back to you because you ruined football. The best SEC player that isn't Joe Burrow.
I'm gonna be
because this is the year of Joe Burrow. It just is.
Absolutely. Seinfeld style.
I'm gonna be a homer on this, and it's not an Ole Miss homer. It is a Jackson Prep homer. Jerry and Ely.
It's still an Ole Miss homer.
I want to mute you for this. I just want to mute you. I just want to mute you.
But he in an offense that didn't know what it was, had no identity, had no real sense of like figuring it out. He just made a ton of plays, and yeah, is he the second best player in the SEC? No, absolutely not. But he was exciting every time he got the ball. It was like something great happened. It seemed like, and for a true freshman coming from a private school who never really does anything as far as like SEC players are concerned, I love my guy. I love him. So Jerry and Ely.
Great.
Technically, I would have to say Braden Mann, punter from Texas A&M, is probably the second best player in the SEC.
Yep.
But I'm gonna kind of give it to my boy Lynn Bowden Jr. Carried a team on his back, and got to give it to him.
Respect that. Respect.
Yep. All right, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm obviously going to also have to go with Jerry and Ely. I think it's a clear cut.
Obviously.
No. So this is a little bit tough because it's kind of piggybacking. There we go. Off of Joe Burrow in how good he was. But part of the reason that Joe Burrow was so good is that he happens to have what I still think is the best receiving core in the SEC between Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Terrace Marshall. So Chase and Jefferson are 2 and 3 for receiving yards in the country this year. Two teammates ranked 2nd and 3rd in receiving yards. They are tied for 1st in receiving touchdowns this year. Now, obviously, they've had like a bowl game behind them to help out with that and a conference championship game, so they've played a couple more games. But still, that's two teammates that are up there tied or with 12 receiving touchdowns, so tied for like 11th on this list or whatever, is Terrace Marshall Jr. So that's just huge to me. But if I had to single one out, it has to be Jamar Chase, because Jefferson is the upperclassman of the group. So he is the experienced veteran. He's the better route runner of the three by far. Terrace Marshall was, I want to say, a higher touted recruit than Chase was, I think. Don't quote me on that. But I just remember hearing some hype about him before he started that year. But for Jamar Chase to come in and just absolutely seal himself as their clear-cut number one wide receiver on the best team in the country, I think it's just, you have to give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do to help his quarterback, but help his team as well. Mm-hmm. So Jamar Chase. Also because at the Mississippi State LSU game, I saw a family member of his wearing a custom-made LSU number 1 jersey where the inside of the number 1 was a picture of Jamar Chase running down the field. And it was
awesome.
It was the sickest thing I've ever seen. I think I sent it to you guys on GroupMe. It was the sickest thing I've ever seen.
That's fantastic.
So even if he had a terrible year, he wins because of that.
Nice.
Honorable mention to Jerry Jeudy of Alabama for being one of maybe the most NFL ready wide receiver I've ever seen in college ever.
Yeah. He's a phenom, and he's going to have a really good career.
Yeah. Good wide receiver year in the conference. Good wide receiver year.
Awesome year. Yeah, awesome year.
Like a really surprising year. Like
Lynn Bowden. I mean,
just the best wide receiver. Like, not to be like a real homer or anything, but like Florida had a pretty deep wide receiving core also, and like Van Jefferson had a really sneaky good year too. Nothing like
that counts for both you and Chandler, I think, technically.
Yep. Anyway, so I think that the correct answer is probably Tua, just in terms of stats and like clearly what he meant to his team.
Well, I didn't know there was a right or wrong answer.
Well, that's the correct one. You all suck. But I'm gonna have to once again piggyback off of Gray and throw it over to Lynn Bowden Jr., whatever his last name is, Bobby Bowden's son.
The family resemblance is obvious.
Oh yeah,
just what he did. Like he's a special player, and he showed it. Like he was a video game character.
1,800 yards from scrimmage on the season for Lynn Bowden.
Yeah,
he did it on a much higher level, but he reminds me so much of Randall Cobb. Like, just kind of came in and did everything.
100%. 100%, yes.
Randall was never asked to be the full-time quarterback for Kentucky, but it's awesome. It's cool to see a guy like Bowden do something like that.
1,800 total yards from scrimmage, and that's playing wide receiver on a team that didn't know how to pass the ball for like 4 straight games.
Yeah.
So they just put him in there, and like towards the end of the year, he was having like 200+ yard rushing games.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was the deep threat.
Insane.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, man, nobody expected him to be able to do that.
All around threat. Yeah. Props to the Tennessee Titans for just running the Kentucky offense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, Chandler, there was a moment in the season which he was doing something. It probably was against Mississippi State, and he was doing something. And like he made this play, and I think it was because I remember my brother I was standing next to, he got upset. He's like, oh man, I can't believe like he made that catch, whatever. And I turned to him, I was like, that's the next Randall Cobb.
Yeah. Like
we got to give him some credit. He just is that good, and he's probably going to have a good professional career as a solid route runner, all that.
Yeah. All right. for time's sake, we're going to skip the next couple of questions
Oh
that
man.
we had here. Yep. Real quick, starting with Joseph this time. Give me 3 quick predictions for what the SEC will look like at the end of 2029. Must include the 2029 SEC champion.
Man, this is a shame because I had really good answers for questions 5 and 6. I'll be honest with you. Oh well. Yeah, 3 quick predictions for the SEC will look like at the end of 2029. This one was, I guess, pretty easy for me. Number 1, exactly the same. Number 2, exactly the same. And number 3, exactly the gosh darn same. College football does not change drastically over long spans of time. Obviously, there are differences here. Alabama was bad in the 90s, regardless of what Alabama fans would like to tell you. They were not a notable team in the 1990s. They were not a notable team until Nick Saban took back over. That being said, we're in a position right now in college football where it is very top heavy. And it is very top heavy in the fact that not only do like recruits tend to go to like the same schools and do well there, but the selection committee favors, the particular same amount of teams. And statistically speaking, if you're outside of, a certain 5% of D1 programs, you won't even ever have a chance in your program's history of ever sniffing a national title. So, I don't necessarily suspect that 2019 is going to look drastically different. I think you're going to see Alabama and LSU in the West with the occasional Auburn sprinkled in. I think in the East, you're going to see Georgia and Florida with like the occasional nobody sprinkled in. But I think what's really going to surprise a lot of people is that the Alabama by 2029, Alabama head coach Lane Kiffin will be leading them to SEC titles. And there you go. Ed Orgeron will die in his office chair at LSU. He will never go anywhere. And then, so those are my actual 2 predictions. So Orgeron will die at LSU. Kiffin will be Alabama coach. And number 3, Disney will be on their 50th attempt to make a Star Wars film that's both a good movie and appeals to fans, and will have failed on every attempt. There you go. 2029. Gonna be good.
Perfect. Gray.
So I see as my champion at the end of 2029, the Clemson Tigers, led by Dabo Swinney.
Stole my thunder.
Oh, sorry, man. That's really the only good one that I had. Because I was having such a hard time going back to what Joseph has said regarding the SEC and how it really hasn't changed much other than teams getting worse and then the cream of the crop just rising even higher. I really don't have much. 3 predictions, man. I still think if Mike Leach survives, his first 2 years at least,
He won't.
Well, we could see the pirate ship, the pirate sheep.
Pirate sheep. Something I didn't know I needed.
Like baby.
Yeah, that's what it is. The pirate ship seating deck, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, replacing the by the Seal Building at Davis Wade Stadium. That's a prediction that I made on our emergency podcast the other day. Obviously Clemson joining the conference and dominating the East, and then Missouri just sneaking away as if they never were a part of the SEC to begin with.
Send them back.
So no more Missouri, adding Clemson, pirate ship at Davis Wade.
Perfect. Chandler?
I'm going to go with the Clemson. Clemson winning the SEC East as 1. I'm going to go with Oklahoma winning the SEC West as 2. because I think those are going to be the two big targets for the SEC when the next round of expansion comes. And I think Oklahoma is going to finally be fed up with all the Texas and the Big 12 bullcrap they have to deal with. So they're going to say, hey, we're heading to the SEC. We're out. And then number 3, I'm going to say that Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss throws a monkey wrench into all of that and wins the national championship. That's not happening, but I'm going to make that prediction anyway.
Nope, you said it. Speak it. Word to truth, man.
That's it, man. Name it and claim it.
Hey, Ole Miss fans, what an exciting time.
In 3 days.
Looks like he's being held hostage.
That's low key. That's one of the things that I love about the Lane Kiffin hire is that everybody thought, and including state fans who were like, crapping on the hire too. Like everybody thought that he was this like big over the top like trash talker. He's as boring as it gets. We're gonna recruit the best players and we're gonna try to play physical football and win a lot of games. It's like, wait, did somebody forget to hit the reset button on him? Like, what's that? I love that. I love that about him. Like, he's not who anybody thought he was, and that's so hilarious.
Somebody unplug and plug Lane back in.
He needs to be power cycled real quick.
He's frozen.
Right. Yeah. It like to me, that's so funny to me. I love that. So yeah, we'll see. But why not predict it? Who cares? We'll be dead in 10 years. The climate change, whatever.
Yep.
That's right.
You stole my childhood.
I am.
How dare you?
My prediction. It was me, Austin. It was me all along. My 3 predictions are that by the end of next decade, Alabama will be closer to the Shula years than the Saban years. I think that there will be another realignment. And thirdly, because of climate change and because of the ocean sea levels rising and taking out, Florida, Georgia, probably South Carolina.
Yeah.
By virtue of everybody else being underwater, Kentucky is your 2029 SEC championship.
Now, Paul, I'm just saying the climate change ain't played nobody. All right.
I want to co-sign.
Climate change had to play an SEC schedule. I don't think they'd be doing what they're doing right now. All right, Paul? I will hang up and listen.
I'll take my answer off air. All right, you know what? Screw it. We're going to run real quickly through questions 5 and 6. Joseph, real quick. Most underwhelming player, go.
Most underwhelming player was, piggybacking off of my biggest surprise, Tennessee quarterback Jarrett Garantano, who Tennessee was getting better, turning into an okay team. He should have taken advantage and solidified himself as the player they hoped he would be, and he failed at every opportunity. Underwhelming, Garantano.
Gray.
Piggybacking off of what Joseph has said about quarterbacks and taking the reins, Bo Nix. You come in as a freshman, you have all the hype in the world.
Yes,
Gus Malzahn,
that's a really good answer.
Dual threat. You have a all SEC caliber defense, and you just kind of do nothing with it. Bo Nix, I don't see a future in you, son.
Dang, that took a turn. All right, Chandler.
Jake Fromm.
Dang it. Also Jake Fromm. Although is a guy who's perpetually underwhelming.
My favorite
meme
from the whole college football season was the jealous girlfriend meme, where like the guy and the girl.
Oh yes.
And it was like Jake Fromm, and the girlfriend was like a short pass, and the other girl was like even shorter pass.
Yes.
I love that. I keep going back to that in my brain every day.
That's so Jake Fromm. All right. Worst decision.
Future NFL quarterback Jake Fromm, that is.
Yeah, actually probably.
Yep. He'll win.
Worst decision, whether by a player, coach, broadcaster, whatever. Joseph.
Back to me. Okay, great. The worst decision was all of the media members that decided that Elijah Moore fake peeing changed the entire world. Like, they took what was a funny over the top, ridiculous moment from the weekend and decided that literally every single current event could somehow be tied back to Elijah Moore fake peeing, and it lost it all. And I get it that the rivalry like lends itself to over the top folklore, but it doesn't need to be exaggerated to lend itself to over the top folklore. Why can't that moment just have been enough? Like, okay, if you want to try to pin the coaching firings on that, you can. That's fine. That's okay. But if you want to make it so that every single thing ties back to it, that's ridiculous. But as a quick sub note, worst decision on my part was my decision to fool myself into thinking that college basketball as a sport was healthy and in a watchable position as a whole. And it's not. It still sucks.
Real frustrating.
The sport as a whole sucks. So that's on me. That's on me, and I apologize.
All right. Chandler.
Told you I had some good answers, all right?
I mean, worst decision, pass. Just come back to me in a minute.
All right, Gray.
The worst decision, and not a surprising decision by this person, was Gary Danielson just making a mockery out of a student photographer on the sidelines getting knocked out.
I forgot that happened, and
that's the answer.
Yeah, that is.
That's the answer.
The only
unanimous decision.
Exactly. The only reason I didn't write that down on my own notes is because I knew all of us were thinking it.
Well, once I saw in the notes, broadcaster, whatever, I had to.
I specifically threw in broadcaster because I knew that there was going to be some Gary Danielson story in there, and it's the only Gary Danielson story.
I will say the only acceptable answer other than Gary Danielson mocking that girl for getting knocked out on the sideline is CBS for employing him.
Yes.
Worst decision is CBS signing a contract with them.
Stay tuned for young Sheldon coming up after this.
Yeah, no, that was like Gary Danielson's bad, but that was just a whole different level. That was really horrific.
Well, and then you remember, not long after that, I think it was ABC bought out the primetime SEC rights in 5 years or something.
Oh, did they get the rights? I actually lost track of that. I wasn't sure who got the rights.
No, CBS, ABC, and ESPN threw down so much money, CBS actually backed out.
Yeah.
Good. They should. Maybe they'll give us all like an early present and finish out their contract. I do hope Gary Danielson.
I do hope that ABC and ESPN holds on to the theme song because that's just a banger.
It is pretty good.
Old Bug Gangnam Style. Yeah, it was a good one.
All right, that's going to be it for our football related year in review questions. Just a couple more for you guys.
Bonus round.
Favorite movie you saw in 2019 does not have to have released in 2019. We'll start with Gray.
I can understand how this movie is not everybody's cup of tea, but I thought it was pretty refreshing and a different take on the universe. I really enjoyed Joker. I thought it was very smart and well thought out, executed really well. The violence that was in the movie served a purpose. I really liked Joker and the story that it had to tell.
Yeah. Chandler.
I didn't watch a lot of movies this year, so Endgame.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have liked Endgame for just about any other year too, but Endgame.
Yeah. All right, Joseph.
Yeah, it wasn't a good year for movies. I actually looked up a list to try to remember what came out in 2019, and most movies that came out in 2019 did not get good reviews on most places. So it's a good thing that you listed others. But probably the best movie I saw was Joker. It feels weird to say favorite because it is not exactly a heartwarming tale.
Sure.
So if I had to
watch it next weekend, so I'm excited.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I'd say if I had to say a favorite, though, Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man was good.
I like Spider-Man.
Yeah. For me, Joker was really good. But I think Into the Spider-Verse is going to get it for me. Like, obviously two very different types of movies, but like Into the Spider-Verse was just it was super fun and refreshing and a lot different than I thought it was going to be in a very, very good way. I love the artistic styling of it. It was just all around super great movie. And that'll do it for me.
Yep. And just to clarify, I was going with Far From Home
Right.
simply because it released last year. So I was trying to stick with that. That's otherwise Spider-Verse. I'd watch that every weekend, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Favorite pop culture moment?
We're all very in touch with pop culture. I can tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. I think I was actually looking forward to this answer more than anything else, just because it's so broad.
Why don't you start us off then? You do it.
All right. Well, to start us off, I think Endgame's box office run to me was like really fun to kind of watch. That's maybe kind of like a non-traditional answer, but the intriguing part of it to me was just seeing how well it did, like last year, and it just barely beating out Avatar, which like it's always just the weirdest thing to me that Avatar was so high up there. And I know that it was entirely based off of like Asian earnings, but like, man. But yeah, so Endgame, just the fact that it was like this culmination of 10 years of movies, or I guess 11 years by the time it came out. And I think it did about as good of a job tying everything up as it possibly could have with 23 or whatever movies it was.
230. You forgot the 0.
Oh yeah, my fault. Every year, so like 1,500 movies or whatever it was. But yeah, so just the phenom that was Endgame. All right, Chandler.
My favorite pop culture moment, from a general sense, was the launching of All Elite Wrestling. But from a very specific standpoint, was watching Chris Jericho, who I think at 50 years old is continuing to reinvent himself, is continuing to put on 5-star matches, and is continuing to just be generally an awesome individual. And my favorite, even more specific moment was after his title victory over Adam Hangman Page, was as he's walking through the backstage area, he comes across a bottle of champagne and goes, "Oh, a little bit of the bubbly," and that just became this huge meme on wrestling Twitter, and it was very funny. So AEW, Chris Jericho, that's my pop culture moment.
Perfect. Gray.
This was an easy answer for me as an employee, an ambassador, a staunch advocate for the worldwide leader in chicken sandwiches. It was watching the debacle at Popeyes, running out of their supply of breaded chicken fillet, but more importantly, their gourmet brioche bun, because when they got their source of their chicken fillets back, they still didn't have any buns for their sandwiches, and they said, "Hey, if you bring us buns, we'll make you your sandwich."
Bring your own bread.
Yeah, bring your own bread. We'll make you your sandwich. I just thought it was hilarious.
That was amazing. Yes.
And I will say thank you for doing what you do and making a consistent chicken sandwich that's available to me 6 days a week. It's brilliant. I love it. It's wonderful.
You're literally doing God's work.
Yes. Crambles, Keith, Joseph, it's my pleasure.
All right, Joseph.
I think Gray just ended the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's hard for me because I live in a bubble. But one of my favorite bands of all time that I listen to more often than anything else, Wolfpack, not only played a show at Madison Square Garden, but sold out Madison Square Garden in their first ever appearance at MSG. And you can listen to the live recording on Spotify. You can purchase it, download wherever if you're into that. VULFPECK live at Madison Square Garden, Wolfpack. They're the best. So there you go. That's
Power
my
move.
moment. Mhm.
Power move. And finally, a much more personal thing.
What was your favorite moment, Keith?
What?
In game. He went first.
Yeah, you went
Yeah.
first. My bad. Sorry.
The entirety of Marvel. No, favorite personal moment for you that you feel comfortable sharing? We'll start with Chandler.
I kind of feel like we know what Keith says, but
Yeah. So my favorite personal moment that I'm comfortable with sharing, there is a personal moment that I will share when we stop recording. But my favorite personal moment that I'm comfortable with sharing is starting with RUF, getting this new job, moving to Tennessee, and it generally going fairly well in 2019.
Nice. Gray?
You know, guys, this was a pretty easy answer for me. As an employee, an ambassador, and as a staunch advocate of the worldwide leader in chicken sandwiches, it has just been working my way up the poultry food chain in my particular store. I'm now a senior leader at the store, and we do top 20 in sales, especially during breakfast in the morning. And I am now all on mornings, which I am super pumped with starting tomorrow. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, just kind of laying roots in Georgia and doing reasonably well at my job.
Nice. Right on, man. Good for you.
That is awesome.
Joseph?
Well, this one's easy for me. Mostly because it was one of the few significant moments of 2019 for me. But being a part of Keith's wedding,
Hey!
I was also a part of that.
No, I'm just trying
Sucks to be Gray. No,
just trying to steal Keith's thunder. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I'm sorry, Gray.
It's all right.
Yeah. 2019, by and large, was a year that I don't remember much of because I was very busy. So, in all actuality, I had a good time going on a trip with my wife's family to Mexico. That was a lot of fun. And one of the memories that does stand out is, of course, being a part of your wedding, Keith. The weekend at Rose Family Cabin, just hanging out with the boys.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And the entire wedding weekend. So, yeah, 2019, by and large for me, I don't remember.
It's because all those drugs, man. Well, yeah. So for me, somewhat obvious. Just personal milestone of mine, something that I've been working on for a couple of years. I put over 500 hours into Warhammer 2 Total War.
Woo! That's my boy. Look at you go. Look at you go.
Chandler's face was pretty great for about a half a second. No, getting married, it was awesome. Just the whole thing, like you said, the bachelor weekend was a whole lot of fun. Getting to see you guys, and then like Zach and Jim coming in, that whole week, and then Friday and Saturday were tons of fun as well. So.
That does sound like fun.
It was all right.
Actually, it was terrible. You should be happy that you weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, it was no piss, miss, and dismiss, but it was all right, I guess. Yeah.
So that is it for our 2019 in review.
What a time! What a time to be alive! What a time to be recording!
For sure.
You know.
How many years of running out the clock is this now? It's at least 5.
Yeah. Consistently, this is the second.
but since you and I dreamed it up and made it happen.
Yeah, it is crazy to look back. I was thinking back a little bit on this earlier today, if I can talk a bit on the subject. But it is crazy to think back about, we started originally as part of a website that a friend of mine was trying to put together of a small group of small podcast network in a way. And we were kind of one of the sports arms of that network. It was called Extra Bacon.
Yes.
And it had something to do with like it was mostly pop culture talk, so it had something to do with like you watched a show, and that was like consuming a meal. But then the podcast review of it later on, that was the extra bacon with the meal. I think was the thought process there.
I never knew there was a thought process behind that name.
I think that's right. I don't know. Knox McCoy doesn't really talk to me anymore, so you know. Actually, I did see Knox a few months ago. It was good to reconnect with him a little bit. But yeah, so we, Chandler and I, we started with that, and it was kind of whatever type of stuff was going on in the sports world. We just kind of talked about it from our perspective.
Because we're very smart.
Mm-hmm, and
maybe the smartest.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone through different iterations over the years. Me, Keith, and Byron Knight.
Oh man,
different Byron. We kind of resurrected it at a point. The Iceman, in which that things had kind of. I mean, Chandler had moved. We weren't really into this part of recording where we were all doing it like live via satellite yet, so that was a different iteration. We'd get together in Sunroom Studios. Those were some of the craziest days. And that's when we really focused it up on like SEC talk specifically. And then eventually we got the original crew back together. By that, I mean, Chandler just came back because me and him, we were the original crew. And we've been doing this now consistently for at least a couple of years, which is, it's pretty cool to see the iterations in it. And it's pretty cool to see something that was a like project like this that I've been a part of actually be going on as long as it has. This and my Liverpool Football Club podcast project, You'll Never Talk Alone, both have been going on for about a solid 5 years, which is wild to think about. Pretty cool. So thank you guys.
Baby.
It's super fun. And here's a little inside the business secret. It's really more about just hanging out and having intentional time to talk with you guys every week. But it's really fun, and it's been a fun year, and I'm excited about what next year holds. Because we have a very exciting, potentially disastrous off-season project that's coming your way.
Not potentially.
That we will talk more about later, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
A disaster in all the right ways. And I just want to apologize that, Chandler, I had no idea that you wanted this to be like a quality time. It's always been about the content for me. My bad.
Well, I mean, as long as both of you get what you want out of it, it's successful.
It's been about the money for me. I've been sorely disappointed.
Yeah, we had to really pony up to get Gray on the show every week, and
this is coming out of our pockets.
Surprise to him, he doesn't make any money off of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Worst decision in the SEC season of 2019 was us lying to Gray about his paychecks.
Well, it was the best decision for us. It was the worst.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Keith, you've done such a wonderful job with this episode. Why don't you go ahead and sign us out, my man? My dude?
Oh. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of Running Out the Clock.
You know what? I changed my mind, Keith. I'm going to do it.
That was terrible. I'm going to sign off now.
I'm kidding. Keith, go now. Nope, never mind. Gray, sign us out.
Joseph, Gray, Chandler, where can people find you on Twitter? So that they can.
God, I know, Keith, you're gone. You blew it. You blew it. You blew it. Gray and Chandler simultaneously sign us out. Go.
Hey,
all right. Thank you, everybody, for
next year.
A great 2019 of SEC football talk.
Hot take is the Tigers are going to win tomorrow night.
Go Tigers! And find me at Taco Flavor Kisses on Twitter.
Stay tuned. A special national championship edition of God Friended Me is next.
Twitter.